Hi guys, welcome to the When's Enough channel. My name is Mukesh, and today I'm going to show you how to basically look at your Audi 1.8 right through to your Audi B5s, right from your 1.8 to your 2.8s. These are the very early first ones in the model years 95 up to 2001. Now these things came with the Hitachi Mms-314 ECMs. The problem I'm having is that on my 2.8 AAH motor is that I'm struggling to get communication between. There seems to be a problem between the ECM communicating with the TCM, the transmission control module. And I'm picking up an issue after diagnosing the fault on backcom or through the bag cable, VCDS, that there's a problem with the load signal. And there's also a problem with the fuel consumption signal. There seems to be some sort of break between the signal that transmits the information when you from the throttle position sensor. In other words, when you press your pedal, the ECM, the sensor TPS sends a message to the ECM exactly where your foot is in terms of percentage wise, from 9% probably right up to 99%, exactly at which travel point your foot is when you accelerate. And it sends that signal to the ECM, which accordingly adjusts all your parameters like your fuel and air and so forth, taking signals from the other sensors and switches, and then transmits this to your transmission control module. So I'm getting a 00638 loose electrical connection, short to plus or short to ground. And I'm also getting a P1772, something like that, which says there's an issue with the fuel consumption signal, and that comes up. The bag error code is I think it's a P18180, 18180. And I've been struggling with this because the car wouldn't downshift. It does upshift, but it wouldn't downshift. And it's the changing of the gears is extremely harsh, with jerking and banging of the actual gears when they do change. And also it goes into limp mode. So I've been struggling with this now for over a year, and I finally decided now to pull out the schematics, which you have to search for and they're not easily available. And this here is the pinouts for from the ECM to the transmission and the various all the other switches and sensors on the engine. But here we mainly concerned with the load signal from the TPS, so we will be looking at that particular schematic. So here you see, somehow I managed to decipher. I found the GIF doc, and this is what I can. This is the only thing I could retrieve from the internet. And here we go. So that's your throttle position sensor. That's your ECM. A67 is your transmission control module. So if you follow, and initially you should rather, instead of tackling your hardware with like your ECM and trying to make any changes there by prying into the hardware and whatnot, which could ruin your entire ECM, which on these cars is extremely, almost impossible to find, and if you do, very expensive, especially here in South Africa. You would first want to do a continuity or a wiring test. So you need the schematic. There's no other way around it, and that's why the professionals charge so much. So if you need to just follow now. It's quite basic. So that's your B47. That's your throttle position. There's 3 main wires: ground, your signal, ground, and your voltage, your 12 volt, and they link up to the respective pins A6, A7, A9 on your ECM. So you run a continuity check with your multimeter from that pin to that pin, and you should get an audible beep. If you don't, then obviously there's a break in one of these one of those wires. The second thing you would do is then do it with you should also do it with your map sensor, since they're interconnected. What else does the PCA look at? You could also check your lambda sensor, and all these signals tie in and are sent to the transmission control module, which also determines when your gears should change, when they should upshift, when they should downshift, and so forth, kick down and so forth. So if you look at the corresponding wiring from the ECM to the TCM, there too I had to figure out. It's a B8 to 41, and then you need to look at you need to pull out all these things, and this is found in the manual. And 41 actually is 41. This is not the correct one, but 41 is actually your load signal. So 41 is your load signal. So 41 on your transmission control to B8 on your engine control module is actually your load signal. So the ECM takes the corresponding signal from your throttle position signal wire, does its various calculations and so forth, and sends it from B1 pin B8 to pin 41. So once your TCM must be in a position to receive this signal in order to obviously perform its functions. So they definitely seem, so if you then run a continuity test from your corresponding wires, you got 51, you got 28, 27, 35, and you should get your beep, audible beep. If you don't, then you know you have a wiring. Having checked that, like I said, you would use these pinouts to determine which pin is which pin on the ECU and the TCM. So you need these to work with this, and this is obviously your diagram schematic that tells you exactly which pin goes where. So I did that, and everything checks out. You know, every wire was 100%. Now I did this obviously with the battery disconnected, with the ECM disconnected, and I didn't obviously check it while it was for any live signals while it was connected, hooked up to the car, because that's when you would obviously be able to pick up whether there's any shorts. So the continuity test wouldn't pick up shorts, so you please bear that in mind. So shorts as in short to ground or short to plus. So for that to do, you'd have to obviously you've got vacuum, which doesn't show you exactly, but you'd have to back probe on each and every single plug that's coming out with respect to the respective wires and pins, so to determine if there's any short to plus or ground. So that could be another factor which I didn't do. Okay, so the wires checked out. So the next port of call was to check out the ECM. Now this is your last resort, so you have to be absolutely careful. So you make sure you've got your setup. That must be grounded to you, so it's making contact with your skin because you are actually ground. And then and only then do you start working on your TCM. So sorry, on your ECM or whatever, for any electronic printed circuit board, it's always important to ground yourself first. They call it a ground strap. So now it's very simple to remove this. You've got just 4 screws. I noticed something, the Japanese philosophy, everything is made very simple and easy to remove, as opposed to the Germans. The Germans seem to make everything so hard. So it's just 4 screws, and it's just let's step outside. Let's be careful. And there you have your engine control module. So don't start touching things even though you're strapped. Just be careful. It's ill-advised to even put your finger on these microprocessors. Those are your microprocessors, and it's always advisable, if you are looking at it, not to use your finger, because a little spark or electrostatic charge can kill that processor or that CPU in a flash. So what you'd want to do, so look at how easily this pops out. The cloth is also can pose a static danger, so rather use something that doesn't. So that's your top of the PCB, and this is the bottom of your PCB. So it's just a matter of time before you do touch it, but if you ground it, then you're safe. So there is both sides. So now we can check the corresponding pins. So we're looking for the load pin 41, and 41 is hooked up to, on the TCM goes to B8. So if you look at your pin out here, B8 is the third one from the top, from the left. So let's go there. So B with B is 20. So you look for the plug or the socket that has 20 pins in it, and you go to B8. B8. So let's look for the pins are all marked. So you go to B8. You would need magnifying glass. Look for, remember, the 20 pin. Okay, so there's my 20 pin. It differs slightly in its location, but it's basically the same thing. That must be from a 200 or something. So if you go from the top left, the third one is your B8. So it's marked, so it's on here, it is actually your third one from the right. Correct, third one from the right. So locate B8, third one from the right. You establish where that leg is, and that leg is somewhere here. 1, 2, 3. There's the leg there. And perhaps it's a wise idea to have a look at that particular leg to see that there's no dry joint. So that leg you have to it's advisable to just look at the basics, and then possibly, just to be on the safe side, you could just apply a bit of solder there on B8, just in case there's a dry joint. So apply some, I prefer just normal solder paste. So remember, we don't want to, you just don't want to do everything in it. Apply some solder on the tip of your, go to B8. And that's more than enough. I'm going to just be a little bit more. You can do this through all the legs if you'd like to. Okay. Once you're satisfied with that, just to make sure, okay, so you feel confident in that, then you would perhaps go to the corresponding leg, go to the same leg on the underneath, B8, there's B8, and the corresponding leg would be here, this one over here, third one here. So there too, you could just apply a bit of solder. Not much, just a dab is fine. Just go through very carefully to establish whether there isn't any dry joints. I'm not worried because I'm static electric proofed. And my word, if you do look carefully, you'll find that a lot of these boards are actually, a lot of these pins, if you look at them, you'll find a lot of the pins are actually, there's lots of dry joints. So if you look carefully, I don't know if you can see that, there are really a lot of dry joints on those pins. So I think it's advisable to just take a little solder and just go over each of those pins very carefully. So let's do that. So I just prefer a little bit of solder paste, just a tiny bit. Just dab it on all those legs. Unfortunately, I can't get into the inner legs, but we'll just have to make do with what we have. So dab a bit of solder very carefully. Okay, that's done. So while you're at it, just run a quick continuity check just to see what's going where. So that's B8. So where does B8 go to? If you follow that leg, usually these things are over-engineered and almost very solidly built, but they do tend to trouble. So if we go to a pin B8, so my B8, and we follow that track, and do our best to follow.